Reddit, what video game ending really messed with you as a kid? Are there any that still freak you out to this day? Pokémon Soul Silver. It doesn't freak me out anymore, but I thought this is a funny story, so here we go. This happened around I was maybe 8 or 9 years old when I got my very first Pokémon game, Pokémon Soul Silver. English isn't my native language, and unfortunately there was no option for Finnish, so I had to choose English as the game language. Luckily my mom was and still is a translator, so I was able to ask her to translate some of the story dialogue and such. Of course I didn't want to bother her all the time because of a game, so I missed out on quite a lot of the dialogue and options, such as saving the game. I had to start the game all over again a few times, but when I had a long run, I kept the Nintendo plugged into the charger all the time. I played it a lot every single day. Sometimes I was playing it in secret before going to bed too. This meaning I was very into the game. When I lost against gym leaders, mainly Bugsy, Claire and of course Whitney, I would sulk about it, and my siblings would help me beat them. Then we would all be celebrating the victory together. Anyways, when I had finally beaten the champion the first time, I was very shocked when the credits started rolling. So much so that I was crying because I thought the game was over, aka I could never play the game with the same team ever again. I was bummed for at least a week until I got over it. Fast forward a few years when I got the idea of revisiting the game, wondering what would happen if I launched the game again. Well, to my surprise, there was a save file from a couple of years back with the same old team I used when defeating the champion the first time. I opened the game and realized there were 8 other gyms to beat and a whole other region to explore. And my dumb ass thought the game was over when the credits rolled. It messed me up back then, but now I laugh about it. Dead Space. Gave me fucking nightmares. My old Wii had a weird graphics issue that never did anything until this one awful day, where I completed all Grand Prix tracks and levels on Mario Kart Wii. The Wii pretty much had a seizure with the sound glitching and sounding like a horror scene, as the pitch was all distorted, so as the credits rolled my Wii crashed, turned off and left me sitting there shaking. Thanks Nintendo. Modern Warfare. I'm still mad at Shepard. Halo Reach's ending. I fell in love with every character and the story, and the hardest part of the story was losing Jorge George, which spelling is correct. The ending of Mario Galaxy was pretty weird compared to the rest of the game. First of all, Bowser fucking dies. And then the star he was on fucking explodes and turns into a black hole and is about to suck everything up. I was a pretty huge fan of space, so I'd heard of spaghettification, so the concept in itself was scary as all hell. I'm not a native English speaker, so I didn't really understand what Rosalina was talking about during that cutscene, but apparently she's talking about Luma's dying? I dunno, it's pretty weird. And then they're all alive in like a new version of the galaxy or something? I dunno, it's a long time since last time I played it, I need to play it again. Still one of my favorite games. Would you kindly? MW2 button mashing to pull a knife out of your stomach, then throwing it at his smug fucking face to hit him in the eye. That plus the scene from earlier where your character gets burned alive, yeah, that fucked me up. The ending of BioShock Infinite. The whole ending movie. Edit. I should add, I was not really a kid at the time I played it, but that game's ending still messes with me. End of Red Dead Redemption. First time a video game hit me that deep. The fight with Gigas in Earthbound. I feel G. O. O. D. Ness. This isn't the true ending to the game, but the bad ending of Majora's Mask can really fuck with a 9-year-old's mind. That's what started me thinking about how the world's gonna end, and I was scared out of my mind for about a month when I heard loud noises, thinking to myself, oh no, the moon's gonna fall. FEAR2. As it's all going down, there's just this increasing sense of what? I can't think of any AAA game before it that risked an ending quite like that. The ending of Telltale The Waking Dead Season 1. Could never sit through it without crying. Half-Life 2. EP2. That scene was fucked up. And I couldn't wait for episode 3. The ending in Minecraft went over my head. I'm jealous of all these people who actually managed to finish video games when they were a kid. I grew up in the 8-bit era and sucked at video games, still do, so I probably beat like 2 video games before I was 12. Final Fantasy X ending to this day still messes with me. Even though I know how X2 goes and whatnot. But Final Fantasy X, for young me, was really shocking. A bit more recent, but Undertale Genocide was scary. That entire playthrough just made me feel horrible, but the ending. Since everyone is commenting, I'll add mine. Shadow of the Colossus messed with me on such a major level because you are supposed to be the hero throughout the whole game, only to find out that you have been killing innocent creatures. I had nightmares for weeks. The first Infamous Games ending was not what I was expecting. Not the ending, but as a kid I got super invested in Fallout 3. No spoilers, but when you complete the quest for the Purifier, I had to hold myself back from bawling. I didn't even reload my save when my favorite companion was killed in combat while escaping. I just let her die, I was that sad and empty inside. Final Fantasy VIII ended like a literal acid trip. It went right over Little Me's head. It doesn't freak me out, but the Last of Us ending plus whole storyline is the reason why my daughter will be named Ellie. That story is messed up and so beautiful, so engaged. Not the ending, but that bit toward the very end of Metal Gear Solid 2, where the HUD goes mental and the colonel starts shouting at you. I was playing illicitly in my elder brother's PS2, and when the colonel goes file corrupted, turn off the console now. I still get chills thinking about how absolutely fucking busted I thought I was. Not necessarily a full ending. But in Doki Doki Literature Club when Itsuki snaps her neck. That scene scared the crap out of me, and to this day I've had 2 dreams involving it. Pokémon Mystery Dungeon Explorer of the Sky, first time a game made me cry like a bitch. Not an ending, but that moment in Final Fantasy VII was pretty damn shocking. Also, Metal Gear Solid 2 plot twist was pretty mind-blowing. Lufia 2. Wasn't expecting it. Spoilers: main characters get married and have a kid, but then they must fight off evil one last time to save the world. The whole team goes out to fight it. The parents die saving the world. Then their spirits travel everywhere and they see their friends celebrating that the world is saved and asking where the main characters are because they should be there by now. Then the parents' spirits go and visit their baby. And the music is enchanting and sad and sublime. I would recommend YouTubing the ending. My god, I was a wreck. The Last of Us, though I wasn't really a kid, fucked me up. I wasn't freaked out, just very upset over the entire situation and the general impossibility of making any good decisions in that situation. That game felt real to me and hit me especially hard in general, but Ellie and Joel's relationship was so hard to watch play out during the final sequence. Not as a kid but as an adult. Life is strange. Anytime video games are brought up I mention this. This game had such an incredible story and characters that it sucked me in. I felt like I knew these people and like they actually mattered to me, so making some of the decisions was hard and, of course, the final decision left me an emotional wreck. I have never felt this way about a video game story before. Silent Hill for PS1. The combination of inside-out dogs, pterodactyls and the eerie white noise from the radio instilled a lot of anxiety and fear as a child. Fear. She was my mom. The whole time, she was trying to communicate the only way she knew how, through fear. Freaked me out. Ghouls and Ghosts for the Genesis. Not only was it the hardest game I'd ever played, but you make it to the end just to be sent back to the beginning to play on hard mode, and I felt like life was going to turn out like that, struggle to the end point just to be sent back with the odds stacked more heavily against you, till you die. Mario Odyssey's ending just makes me sad. Drawn to Life was a kinda obscure DS game I adored as a kid, title explains it all. I played the sequel a few years later, and the ending made me fucking pissed. You know, all those stupid X-character was really in a coma all along, and everything was a dream. Fan theories? That was the actual ending. And the character in a coma was a joke character from the first game. I legitimately do not think I will ever hate an ending to any piece of media more than I hated that game's ending. Not quite the same as freaking me out, but it sure left a goddamn impact. FEAR 2. Remember how terrifying the first game was for its time? Yeah. So they followed it up with a game where instead of trying to kill the paranormal girl, you're fighting an army colonel while she simultaneously rapes you. Specs Arps. The line. Having your squad die was what really got me. I remember playing the original Black Ops way back when and feeling weirded out when I had to button mash in order to drown Dragovich. Not the end of the entire game, but killing Angel in Borderlands 2 made me audibly say oh shit. Well, this isn't really an ending, but it was my ending. I played Zelda. The Minish Cap a lot as a boy. It started with me borrowing the Game Boy Advance of my cousin with it included. I quickly got through most of the game and then reached the Dark Castle of the Sorcerer Vaati, formerly the castle of the royal family. Zelda had been turned into stone, and Vaati was planning to extract the power of the Triforce from her body, which would kill her in the process. Now to get to the boss, you'd have to enter the boss room, and defeat a bunch of Nimbus before the bell tolls, often enough for Vaati to extract the Triforce. Not only was that already a terrifying thought to me as a child, with each toll of the bell adding tremendous amounts of stress to my stress level, it only got worse as soon as I managed to consistently kill the Nimbus in time. The first phase of the boss has eyes cycling around him, and while you at first simply spam them down, you later have to suck in dark protective energy that guards them with an item before you can destroy them. Boy, did it take long for me to find that out. My experience with that game has been: start it, beat Nimbus, be stuck at that one phase, die, watch Zelda die. For years. Eventually, as a child, that became the ending of that game for me. When I was 15 or something, I then picked it back up and found out how to beat the boss by accident because I was fooling around in the world and forgot to swap away the item needed to beat the boss. After that, the boss was a cakewalk, even with the other phases that required other puzzles to be completed. But man, those seemingly millions of deaths Zelda died for me really made me feel guilty, and to be honest, I spent many nights with putting my Game Boy away and crying because I once again couldn't save her and my hands were trembling too much to even beat the Nimbus in time. That was usually when I stopped for that day. I played Diablo 2, far too young to play Diablo 2. I made it to the third mission where you go to a graveyard and a swarm of undead come out, led by an undead lady. That terrified me, gave me nightmares, and was the end of Diablo 2 for a couple years. After coming back, I made it to some point in Act 2, where I was again terrified and didn't play for another couple years. I came back in my teens and finally beat the game. Deus Ex turned teenage me into a conspiracy theorist. King's Quest VI freaked me out when I was 12. There's this one area that's a sort of Tim Burton cartoony horror land. If you hang around in one scene for too long when nothing is happening, the Boogeyman will crawl out from under the ground and eat you. Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2. As a kid, it took me forever to beat both games because I sucked at video games, so finishing both made me feel sort of accomplished. However, the actual endings for both made me feel very sad afterwards.